In Los Angeles, it is estimated that approximately 33% of our county and city's residents are immigrants, a community which plays a vital role in our cultural, economic, and social life. I'm your host, Natalia Bilbao, and today to talk about the current state of immigration policies and to share resources for those in our community seeking to regularize their immigration status, I'm joined by Council District 9 Councilmember Curren Price Jr., Areli Hernandez, Director of Executive Affairs at the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights in LA, CHIRLA, and Jocelyn Duarte, the Executive Director of SALEF, Salvadoran American Leadership and Educational Fund. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Let's start with you, Councilmember. As someone who has championed and been so deeply involved in advocating for immigrant rights, can you share some of the initiatives in your district that are aimed at providing resources and support to immigrants, especially in light of changes in federal immigration policy in the current Trump administration?
Well, Natalia, thanks for inviting us here. It's such an important discussion, and I'm just so proud to be a part of a collaboration of individuals and organizations that really care. Immigrants play such an important role in our community. You know, it's a crime that we don't do more. So we have taken it on ourselves to really support the community. We certainly have residents and businesses that benefit from the immigrant experience. And I want to make sure that people are feeling safe and secure. And so we've done a number of initiatives. One, I allocated almost $3 million in discretionary funds to provide technical assistance, legal assistance, some educational assistance to our immigrant community. That's an unprecedented amount that no one has ever spent before, in discretionary funds at least. We work in collaboration with SALEF, with Teresa, with SALEF, with Baji, a number of organizations who are really committed and on the ground, and so we think that's very important. And thirdly, you know, we created a community center with CHIRLA, a neighborhood resource center. Again, it's an opportunity to provide information on the ground where folks can access it in a way that makes sense. And so we do a variety of things. We're really collaborating and working closely with our immigrant community.
Thank you. Jocelyn, SALEF has been obviously a vital resource for immigrant communities in our city in Los Angeles. So how are you tackling concerns regarding family separations, the zero tolerance policy, and the criminalization of undocumented immigrants?
So we have been educating our community for almost 3 decades. We celebrate our 30th anniversary this year. And part of that, with that responsibility, comes ensuring that we are providing information that is correct information, that we are ensuring that we are keeping our community safe. In the first administration, the first Trump administration, what we did is that we did Know Your Rights. We were out there in the community doing workshops and teaching our communities about what their rights are. We learned a lot since then. Now in this second administration, what we're doing is that we have changed the way, the formatting, the modality that we are being able to provide our Know Your Rights workshops. And addition, thanks to Councilmember Price, we're able to digitalize this and have videos to make sure that we are addressing all the different communities and the different needs that they have. Addition to that, we're doing a second component where we are preparing our families for the inevitable. If our families are separating, these are tough conversations that we need to have, but we want to prepare our families so that they are ready in the case that they are separated. And the third component that, again, thank you to Councilmember Price, who stepped up and ensured that we were going to have legal representation in those workshops so we could provide free consultations. One of the other things that we, part of our education program, we are ensuring that our communities are not vulnerable to notario fraud, that they are being given legal representation or legal advice from either DOJ accredited organizations, attorneys, and that our community understands the difference between a notario, a tax preparer, and an actual immigration attorney or a DOJ accredited representative. So for us, we're out there making sure that we are changing the conversation and that we are trying to keep our community safe. We do not want to reproduce fear, and we want to make sure that we ourselves, that the safety is coming from within with all of our community partners.
And it really does have to be a collaborative approach, and so that's why it's important that we focus not only on the residents, you know, but businesses as well, small businesses, individuals, entrepreneurs, and who are also scrambling, trying to figure out what's next. And so we want to make sure that they have the legal assistance that they need to be helped.
You talked about family separations, a heartbreaking effect of these policies. Areli, you actually experienced this firsthand. So when you were little, I believe, you were publicly inquired by an elementary school teacher about your immigration status.
That's
I mean,
right.
how does that inform, everything that you do as part of CHIRLA, of course, and how you help other people?
Yeah, I grew up in Central California during the era of Prop 187, a time very similar to this time. And it's a time that we look back on and remember how things shifted. And it was shift because the community poured out for change. And so in a similar situation, I was in elementary school and Prop 187 had just passed, and a teacher asked me in front of the whole class if I was born here and if I knew my status. And that impacted me. I grew up knowing that I needed to keep a secret, and my parents were very direct with me. Don't lie, but also don't tell people about this. So I grew up in a generation that was undocumented and very afraid until I arrived at CHIRLA. CHIRLA and organizations like CHIRLA, like SALEF, like Carecen are community-based organizations that really shift the future of our lives. And I am able to do the work for our community because I found a resource that allowed me to live unafraid. I'm currently undocumented but protected by DACA, and I lived in a mixed status family. That is the story of many of the families in Los Angeles, that they are in mixed status families, chosen family and biological family. That is what LA is made up of.
Very well said. Actually, I wanted to ask you both, Jocelyn and Areli, about DACA. So that is one of the biggest fears with this current Trump administration. And what are you all doing collaboratively in case, DACA is eliminated?
Well, I think it's about educating, right? Educating, informing, making sure that folks know what the options are. We know that this is a time of really terror. And so I think our organizations are trying to provide a real holistic approach, providing not just legal assistance, but sometimes they need food, they need shelter, need services as well. So I think it's about collaborating.
And it's really important to talk about DACA, but also TPS. TPS is also a program that is very similar to DACA and impacts a lot of Central American immigrants, of immigrants from Asian Pacific Islander countries that folks don't know about that sometimes tap into those programs. And that is why it's so important to connect to community. At the Community Resource Center in Council District 9, folks from anywhere in the city, it doesn't matter if they're not living in District 9, can go and get a consultation, can get information. Many times folks with DACA and with TPS can apply for adjustment of status through other avenues, but they don't know about it because they don't have the information. So number one, letting people know about other ways that they can adjust their status that they don't know about is the primary one. Second, for those that do have TPS, for those that do have DACA, continue to renew. No matter what you hear on the news, continue to renew. Be up to date on what is your expiration date and send in your renewal, because for those of us who have green cards, DACA, TPS, our renewal is our protection from deportation. It's our work permit. So we just have to stay on top of it and remember to stay active in submitting our applications and find community resources, such as the community resource at Council District 9.
So Areli, just for our viewers who are maybe not familiar with the term TPS, what is that referring to?
TPS is a program called Temporary Protection Status, which is extended to certain people of certain countries, and it is such a vast program that it impacts people in different ways and different dates from different countries, that it is large, but it's constantly at risk, and we keep fighting for it. There is a national organization called the TPS Alliance that fights continually, just as those with DACA fight continually, to preserve the program and to extend the protections. And so it's a work permit and it's protection from deportation, two things that folks need to continue to remain in the U.S. with their families.
And under the Biden administration and previous administrations, these programs were funded.
Right.
Now, President Trump has announced he's going to cut funding just for these programs in addition to others as well. But that's the kind of president he is.
Something very important that Areli mentioned is that we need to be vigilant about our expiration dates. And so one of the reasons when I became executive director of SALEF, and we became DOJ accredited, was to be able to do these very simple renewals around temporary protected status, DACA, and making sure that we were extending and amplifying services so that nobody is left behind. We do not want people to not renew because they're missing the fee. Oftentimes at SALEF, we have scholarships to be able to help our community members to pay for those, to the immigration fee. So we will provide our services in kind, and we will find funding sometimes if people are experiencing hardships. We knock on doors of friendly people like Councilmember Price to be able to make sure that we can support folks with renewals such as TPS, DACA. And I think you brought up a really important fact of making sure that if people have to renew their residency card, one of the things that we talk about in our Know Your Rights is the importance of being able to see an attorney, preferably at a nonprofit organization, that is going to give you the proper information, that is not looking to make money off of you and set your family potentially in deportation proceedings. So making sure that if you can adjust, how is that going to happen? And so making sure that you have all the proper information so you're able to make a decision that is a sound decision, that is coming from a credible source. And I think that that's one of the things that I would like to stress, and I think all of us here, we want to make sure people are going to credible organizations that are providing these services. And I think that, for example, for SALEF, we aren't able to do certain immigration services, so we introduce them over to CHIRLA or to Carecen or to other organizations like El Rescate to be able to provide those services, because our interest is to make sure that our communities are safe and they're not put in deportation proceedings.
And it's obvious, what big of an impact immigrants, make in our community. I believe it's $8.5 billion that they pay, that undocumented immigrants pay in California taxes. So can we touch on how important it is to file their taxes regardless of their immigration status?
Obviously, because these funds are theirs. And so we want to make sure that people are taking advantage of programs that are designed to assist them while they can. And so programs that provide income to come in, or that qualify for housing or other services. So very, very important. And again, that's why information centers, resource centers are important, so that folks can be informed about what they have coming, what they are entitled to.
Right.
And for the assistance that can really make a difference. But we know that these conditions impact jobs, they impact homelessness, really the homelessness issues. It impacts issues around housing, around just survival. And so we know that they're all interrelated, and it's important that we provide some resources.
Mm-hmm. Does SALEF and CHIRLA also provide, advice and information regarding filing taxes?
We do, actually. CHIRLA, through our immigrant assistance line, which is noted on our website, CHIRLA.org, provides information for Californians to have access to the ITIN, which is the individual taxpayer identification number, the ITIN. And it's a number that immigrants or business owners can use to file their taxes. This number has existed for years. Folks use it because there is a belief in our immigrant community that someday I will be able to adjust my status and I will have proof through my taxes. So I know many people who have years and years of their filing saved as proof for when the moment comes that they're able to file their taxes. Right. And we inform the community about how they can acquire an ITIN to file their taxes, or how they can get support in filing their taxes. And that's available on our website, CHIRLA.org, and our immigrant assistance line.
We provide education around ITINs as well, and making sure that people know about the earned income credit, the child tax credit, and making sure that we do that, and partnering with resources that already exist in our city, like the family source centers that provide tax preparation. We're going out and meeting the community where they're at the different elected officials that are hosting tacos and taxes, and we're there at these resource fairs, making sure that we not only are guiding them towards this, but that they know that we trust that if they file this, their taxes, they're going to benefit, because we know that because of the situation, there's a lot of fear.
I was going to ask you about that.
There is a lot of fear.
Yeah.
And there's things that are unknown for all of us, right? But we know what we know. And we know that we're in a sanctuary state, we're in a sanctuary city, and that California is going to fight to make sure that our community stays safe.
Because I understand that a common fear is, well, what if I file my taxes and then I have, ICE officers showing up at my door? And yes, would you like to explain a little bit about the sanctuary city?
I'm proud to say we are a sanctuary city and a sanctuary state. But it just means that we're not going to cooperate with the authorities, with feds, in trying to round up individuals. And so we take it very seriously, and we want to make sure that folks understand that they have status, that they have rights.
The Know Your Rights workshops that
That's why
you're
we're so happy to
in.
co-sponsor the Know Your Rights workshops with organizations, so that we get the word out, that people understand what the resources are and what they can do. It's just so very important, and so it's important also that we support organizations working together, collaborating. I like when we've got CHIRLA, CADESA, Baji, SALEF working together on projects and programs, because it does underscore the fact that we are in this together, and we got to work together.
So what do you see could be the challenges coming up? And I know you're taking things as they come, as we all are, but what do you foresee as being the biggest challenges right now for the immigrant community in Los Angeles?
I think there's a lot of misinformation. I think that in our need to want to inform the community, people must realize to be responsible, to be able to provide information. If you are recording and we don't know if it's ICE or it's the police or it's the sheriff or it's, sanitation. We need to differentiate those and making sure that we're sharing responsibly. I think that we don't want to create a situation where our kids are not going to want to go to school. I was just at a small business, in our community, and there was a video that was shared that ICE was there. She hasn't had business in 5 days. So we have to share the correct information, and we can verify that. I know that CHIRLA has a hotline, we have a hotline as well, and there's just, our city is so big and our county is so big, so we want to make sure that we're all putting our efforts into verifying information about ICE operations. And I think we have many challenges ahead of us, but I think that if we work together, we're educated about our rights, because that's the most important thing right now, is everybody needs to know their rights. Then we're going to be able to address all the other issues as they come.
Right. Let's go back to talking about ICE, because I feel like that's one of the biggest fears, naturally, getting deported. So what is like the rule of thumb, and what are some of the important steps to follow or things to do if we have an ICE officer knocking at our door, or like showing up at our grocery store or at a school even?
So in response to one of the threats is people feeling isolated, people feeling like this is happening to me alone and not to anyone else, and them not seeking information, not seeking community resources. This is a moment where folks have to go to trusted organizations in the community to get informed and to verify the information that is out there. And so that one of those is when there are ICE in the community, right? There's a lot of misconception of what that looks like. And here in Los Angeles, in January, there were fires. And a lot of people confused vehicles responding to the fires with Department of Homeland Security. And it took a lot of time for community organizations to verify and to confirm they're responding to the fires, not to enforcement. But folks were able to confirm that because they were connected to community organizations. So that's really important.
Stay connected.
What happens if ICE is in your neighborhood? Number one, yes, LA is a sanctuary city. That means that city employees cannot cooperate with ICE. But that also means that ICE will still come into the city. So the safest thing for people to do is to know their rights, their constitutional rights. Immigrants still are covered under constitutional rights, and that is the right to remain silent, number one. That you do not have to share your information with someone that you don't know, no matter who they are. Information about your name, your first name, your last name, where were you born, what are you doing here? If they do not have a warrant, you don't have to share any of that. Number two, you don't have to open your door. That's your work door, your car door, your home door. You don't have to open your door until they have a warrant. Right. And at CHIRLA.org, we have a whole page on how you can tell what is a judicial warrant and what is a fake paper that they're presenting to you. Yeah. There's also a lot of videos on there for you to see. And I tell families, practice with your family. If you have somebody in your family, practice with them. Be the person who is asking the tough questions and teach them how to enforce their rights. Teach them. That is how we're going to get through this time, because we're exercising our rights, our constitutional rights. We are still covered by those constitutional rights.
I'm glad that Areli brought up the fact about the warrant. So a lot of people are having right now, like, well, what they think that the constitutional rights only applies to their home, but the warrant is very important. So understanding the difference between a magistrate warrant or a judicial warrant, it has to be signed. These are some of the things that we go through in our workshops, so that we give them copies, we give our community copies so that they know and they are comfortable in looking at that. I think that because we're so close to the border, this is why the Know Your Rights workshops are so important, and why that the Trump administration is, very much scared of California, because they know that we're educating our community. And so we want to make sure, because we're so close to the border, it's, 2-3 hours could make a difference in a family's life. Yeah. So we want to make sure that we understand the warrant, that we understand that not to sign any documents until you see an attorney. And while you are not entitled that somebody's going to pay for it, there are organizations that have funding to be able to do removal defense. And so we have to not sign anything such as a voluntary departure. Oftentimes we're seeing that people are being coerced or being intimidated into signing documents, which is a voluntary departure. And because there's all of these things happening, we have to understand the difference of all of these processes. And while we can plan for everything, if all else fails, we want to make sure that we do not lie and we do not give the wrong name or the birth date. Because if you do not have what we call an A number, which is the alien number, that is one way that your family will be able to find you, or through the ICE locator. And the other one is not to sign anything, and that you have the right to see a lawyer. So if all else fails, and we can go into shock, and I think it makes a lot of sense, right?
And practicing is so important.
Is
It
helpful.
becomes muscle memory,
and kind of knowing these things, and through our family preparedness workshops, we are able to do all of that. And so the more that we are out there together, the more people that we're going to be able to educate, and we're going to have a cadre of people that know their rights.
Yeah. And what I'll say too, in addition to everything Jocelyn said, is this is not affecting only undocumented immigrants. Immigrants overall, naturalized immigrants, immigrants with legal permanent status with their green cards are also being questioned at this time. So in general, this is information for our whole community. This is information that is for the protection of the community, because anytime there's activity in the community, it's going to impact the full entire community.
And it's really our job to help people feel safe. We need to make sure that the people feel safe, if they're immigrant or not, that they're not going to be under attack from their own police, from their own law enforcement. And so it's important for us to reinforce that and to underscore the fact that privacy is important and safety is important.
One of the things that we do at SALEF is we talk about these laws that exist in California in our city, like SB 60, that you can have a license regardless of your document status. Then we also know that we're a sanctuary state, SB 54. And then additionally to that, we talk about Special Order 40 with the police. And that's been in effect since 1979. Oftentimes we are scared of the police. It's a historical thing in communities of color, in immigrant communities. But in the case of immigrants, if they are if their safety is being questioned, if they are fearful of their life, they should know that they should call the police. That also could help them access a vehicle or a pathway to protection from deportation through something called a universal visa, VAWA, which is a Victim of Violence Against Women's Act. So these are important things that if we do not call the police and we do not report the crime, then it will close that avenue for people.
Speaking about the community at large, what are some of the ways that people in our community can get involved, volunteer, maybe reach out to representatives, members of Congress to help the immigrant community and to access all these resources and information that you're providing from your organizations and from the council district?
Well, certainly we're blessed to have a number of organizations that are on the ground that are committed. SALEF, CHIRLA, CARESN, BAJI, are amongst those who are connected. And I think that's important because they can relate and they're on the ground and they've got lived experiences. So that's important. It's also important to support elected officials who support the cause and who have been supportive and who understand the importance. Frequently, we need to get some push as well. And so, as I say, we're all in this together, but that's why it's so exciting. It's why it's so important that we work together, because we can make a difference and we will survive.
Yeah, I always think of a thing that I heard when I was little, which is either I go or I send. So it's you can be involved, right? Number one, share the Know Your Rights information. If you're on social media, share the proper Know Your Rights information. Share the proper ICE recording information, right? Like, don't just propel information, but be part of informing people. We always say power, not fear. And so how do you empower others to also know their rights, enforce their rights, and get informed in one of these organizations. If they have a drive, volunteer at the drive, right. Give. That is always a great way to support organizations that are doing this work by giving. During
time or money.
Time
right.
or money.
Yeah.
During the wildfires, we had somebody say, I have masks that I want to donate to CHIRLA so that you can give them out to the communities affected by the wildfires. So give is not just monetary, it's whatever is accessible to you to give. And then lastly, show up with us, show up with immigrants, show up with our organizations. There are so many opportunities to show up. There's so many activities in the city of LA. In March, there's going to be several activities. And of course, LA is known for May Day. On May 1st, we take to the streets. And in 2006, when we were in a similar time in this nation, it was the marches, the grand marches in April and in May that shifted the course of immigration in this nation. And so people can join us on May Day and at the other activities that are happening.
I love it. Send.
I think that we all, sometimes these times can feel very overwhelming. There's so many things that are going on, not only in our, things that have to do with immigration, but just overall, education is under attack, just everything that's happening at the climate. So it can become very overwhelming. But I think there's a couple of things that we could all do. One is that we can ensure that we empower our community through education, making sure that we are sharing responsible information, and making sure that we are supporting the organizations that are doing the work. There are so many organizations, but the need is so great. So, you can sprinkle the love to all the different organizations. And I really loved what you said, Areli, about showing up for our community. Yeah. It's not only about, resharing, reposting, but really showing up for our community. And that looks like in different ways. And I think it's about capacity as a person and as a family. Like, what can I do? Maybe I can only donate, $20, or maybe I can donate some masks, or I can donate, food, whatever it is, find a way that will allow you to give in your best genuine way and be able to show up for our community in that way.
I love it. Invest and show up for your community. Well, thank you very much, Areli, Jocelyn, and Councilmember Price for spending some time with us today, sharing resources for our immigrant community. We will be right back with Jocelyn and Areli for a discussion in Spanish. Vamos ahora con un segmento en español para ayudar a nuestra comunidad de inmigrantes en Los Ángeles. Se estima que aproximadamente el 33% de los residentes de nuestro condado y ciudad son inmigrantes, una comunidad que juega un papel vital en nuestra vida cultural, económica y social. Soy su conductora, Natalia Bilbao, y hoy para hablar sobre el estado actual de las regulaciones de inmigración y compartir recursos para aquellos en nuestra comunidad que buscan regularizar su estatus migratorio y garantizar su permanencia en los Estados Unidos, me acompañan Jocelyn Duarte, la directora ejecutiva de SALEF, Fondo Salvadoreño de Liderazgo y Educación, y Areli Hernandez, directora de Asuntos Ejecutivos de la Coalición por los Derechos Humanos de los Inmigrantes, CHIRLA. Gracias a ambas por estar aquí hoy conmigo. Jocelyn, comencemos contigo. Cuéntanos un poquito la misión y objetivos de SALEF y cómo han cambiado estos y los planes de acción que tienen en base a los recientes decretos ejecutivos sobre migración de Trump.
Bueno, este año SALEF celebramos 30 años de estar en la comunidad, y desde que nosotros fuimos establecidos por Carlos Vaquerano, era la idea, siempre fue, y nuestra misión siempre ha sido de proveer acceso a la educación. Y en estos tiempos, no solamente ayudando a la generación 1.5 o la segunda generación que nació aquí en los Estados Unidos a tener acceso a poder convertirse en los profesionales, en los doctores, en los abogados, en los líderes de nuestras comunidades mediante yendo a la universidad. Inicialmente, como un fondo educativo, esa siempre ha sido nuestra misión. Y aunque esa sigue siendo nuestra misión y ese es nuestro enfoque, también tenemos una responsabilidad de educar a toda nuestra comunidad acerca de sus derechos, de las leyes que pueden impactarlos, de las políticas que están pasando, no solamente ahorita, pero anteriormente.
Bueno, Areli, tú además viniste desde Puebla a los Estados Unidos de muy chiquita para reunirte con tu familia. Y tú, de hecho, has sufrido en primera mano la discriminación y obstáculos por ser inmigrante. ¿Qué tan importante es la labor que hace CHIRLA y cómo han ido evolucionando los programas que ofrecen desde que tú te uniste en 2010 y cómo se están adaptando al clima de incertidumbre y de miedo actual?
La misión de CHIRLA es crear una sociedad justa que plenamente integre a los inmigrantes. Entonces, nuestro enfoque no nada más es en inmigrantes, pero en la comunidad en general, que haya justicia y que los inmigrantes sean parte de esa justicia. Así es que nuestros programas se han expandido para asegurar eso. En la expansión, yo pienso más grande, por la cual la gente conoce más a CHIRLA, es los servicios legales, que somos una de las organizaciones que ofrece servicios legales, pero también seguimos trabajando en todo lo que tiene que ver con el medio ambiente, porque el medio ambiente y los impactos del medio ambiente son lo que afecta que nuestra comunidad se tenga que migrar también. Y seguimos también trabajando en darle la bienvenida a los que están llegando a los Estados Unidos, a nuestros hermanos, hermanas que vienen por primera vez, y les damos la bienvenida con dignidad. Así es que CHIRLA es muy orgullosa organización de ser alguien que recibe a esos con nuestras parejas en coalición, a los que han venido en bases de Texas, pero los que llegan a Los Ángeles todos los días. Así es que hemos visto muchos cambios, pero seguimos de pie sabiendo que estamos aquí para la comunidad, y nos acordamos que han pasado casi 40 años desde la última vez que hubo una legalización. En ese tiempo fue que CHIRLA fue fundada, para expandir una legalización, y no nos olvidamos de eso. Seguimos con eso como meta, legalización para todos los que están aquí.
Me encanta eso que dijiste de la importancia de la dignidad de la gente, tanto que llega como la gente que está. Y hablemos un poquito, porque sé que ambas organizaciones se centran también en que la gente conozca pues sus derechos, ¿no? Entonces vamos a compartir con nuestra audiencia cuáles son aquellos derechos fundamentales que deben de conocer los inmigrantes, tanto los que llegan a Estados Unidos como los que ya están acá residiendo.
Mira, el derecho más básico es que tenemos el derecho a permanecer en silencio. Eso es lo más básico en este momento para nuestra comunidad. Hay muchas veces que estamos muy acostumbrados a obedecer a la gente, y cuando nos dicen o nos dan una orden, rápidamente decimos sí. Pero lo primero es que tenemos que recordar que tenemos el derecho a permanecer en silencio y no divulgar información que nos va a perjudicar. Estamos en la ciudad de Los Ángeles. En diciembre, la ciudad de Los Ángeles votó por hacerse una ciudad santuario, que es muy bueno. Pero eso significa que el personal de la ciudad no colabora con inmigración. Aún inmigración va a operar en esta ciudad, y la manera de protegernos es conociendo nuestros derechos. El derecho número 1, permanecer en silencio. Número 2, no firmar nada que no conocemos. Y número 3, pedir un abogado. Yo sé que Jocelyn tiene más sugerencias.
Definitivamente, como dice Areli, tenemos el derecho de permanecer en silencio. Es parte de nuestros derechos que nos protege la Constitución. Tenemos que también entender que no importa cuál sea nuestro estatus migratorio, nosotros tenemos derechos que son basados en la Constitución, que nos protege a todas las personas dentro de los Estados Unidos. Entonces, al momento de permanecer en silencio, también tenemos el derecho de no abrir la puerta. Parte de los talleres que estamos haciendo de conocer nuestros derechos es también conocer qué es una orden de un juez de migración, cuáles son las órdenes que nos van a permitir que entren a nuestro hogar o nuestro carro o nuestro espacio de trabajo. Entonces es muy importante saber eso, qué es lo que se requiere para que puedan entrar, qué son esos puntos en esas órdenes que son esenciales. Creo que es muy importante, como mencionó Areli, no debemos de firmar. En el caso que haya un operativo.
Y eso hablamos para que la gente lo sepa del caso de encontrarnos con un oficial de ICE.
Si hay un operativo, si ICE llega a tocar nuestra puerta, si cualquier situación que sea, quizás llegue a nuestro lugar de trabajo, es muy importante de que no firmemos ningún documento, sin importar la amenaza, las intimidaciones que pudiéramos estar, que ese oficial pueda estar haciendo hacia nuestra persona. No firmar un documento que no sabemos qué dice, que esté en nuestro propio lenguaje, en nuestro idioma natal. ¿Por qué? Porque podemos estar firmando la deportación voluntaria. Entonces, muy importante también es que todos tenemos el derecho de tener un abogado. Entonces, es muy importante que hagamos ese llamado si es que estamos en una situación de que tenemos el derecho de ver un abogado y que no vamos a firmar nada ni a decir nada más hasta que veamos a un abogado.
Lo que está pasando, hemos visto que también, por ejemplo, en las escuelas, hay niños que ya no van a la escuela porque los papás tienen miedo de que vaya ICE ahí, a lo mejor ellos no van a trabajar. ¿Cómo están ustedes tratando de aliviar ese miedo, esa preocupación para evitar que la gente deje ir a trabajar? O, por ejemplo, que la gente no pague impuestos. ¿Qué tan importante es que la gente contribuya a pagar los impuestos para obtener beneficios?
Creo que así acabamos de vivir algo muy feo aquí muy catastrófico aquí en Los Ángeles con los incendios. Y también vivimos en un tiempo en una ciudad donde nos tenemos que preparar para los earthquakes.
Los terremotos.
Para los terremotos. Tenemos que prepararnos para los terremotos y cualquier otra desastre natural. Preparación es importante. Una de las cosas que nosotros nos estamos asegurando en SALEF es ayudar a que las familias se preparen si llega ese momento inesperado, ese momento quizás que puede ser inevitable. ¿Cómo es que preparamos a nuestra familia, a cada miembro de nuestra familia, a tener esa conversación y tener un plan de acción? Parte de lo que es importante tener son copias de documentos como actas de nacimiento, algún tipo de identificación. No estamos recomendando que carguen con ustedes la consular o si son de El Salvador o de Guatemala, el NIT o el DUI con ustedes, pero sí lo deben de tener en casa. Entonces, hay planes cosas que podemos poner en práctica hoy para que si llega a pasar eso, tengamos a alguien designado en nuestra familia que va a cuidar por nuestros hijos o se va a encargar de asuntos financieros, ya sea de si son dueños de casa o sus cuentas bancarias. Entonces, es muy importante que sepan todo eso para que puedan formar un plan como familia y incluso si personas que son parte de nuestra familia escogida, entonces que pudiéramos apoyarnos en todo para que estemos educados de lo que podemos hacer.
Sí, y algo que estamos viendo, que hay estudiantes que no están yendo a la escuela porque ellos tienen temor o porque sus padres tienen temor a llevarlos. En este momento es bien importante saber que el Distrito Unificado de Los Ángeles ha pasado a una moción de que ellos son un distrito que va a respetar a los estudiantes en no permitir que ICE entre a las escuelas. Eso es algo que ellos han pasado y también estamos trabajando con muchas de las organizaciones como United Teachers Los Ángeles que están proveyendo información a los padres para que los estudiantes sepan sus derechos también en las escuelas. En este momento es bien importante estar en comunidad, así es que donde es posible que los niños sí vayan a la escuela para que tengan amigos, para que se distraigan, porque estar en la casa con temor es algo bien difícil. Y es bien importante que sigamos nuestras vidas, claro, con precaución siempre cuidándonos, pero seguir nuestras vidas, porque es muy fácil caernos en un hoyo donde nos perdemos, de vivir en constante temor y constante terror, y eso no es ni saludable para nosotros ni para nuestras familias. Y mencionaste algo bien importante que es nuestros impuestos. Muchas veces es algo que tenemos que hacer y que debemos que hacer, y hay muchas familias que hacen sus impuestos como comprobante de que han estado en este país y que ellos contribuyen también a este país. Nuestras organizaciones tienen recursos para ayudarles a las personas a hacer eso, información, y también pueden visitarnos chirla.org y salef.org para ver esa información. Y también en chirla.org tienen todos los recursos de cómo saber cómo son estos formularios que les estamos hablando, el formulario de la familia, por si tiene hijos, a quién se los va a dejar, todo eso. Todos los martes en la noche, en la hora de Los Ángeles a las 6, hay un show por Facebook que se llama CHIRLA en tu casa. Y ahí pueden ver toda la información de la semana, pueden recibir actualizaciones, pueden hacer preguntas. Es completamente en español. Es un programa en Facebook Live por nuestro Departamento de Educación de la comunidad, y ahí van a poder ver las respuestas a muchas de sus preguntas que tengan y se las responden ahí mismo también. Así es que yo recomiendo eso mucho como un recurso para la comunidad que habla español. Pueden ir ahí, conectarse con más personas, recibir información, y si tiene alguna duda de cualquiera de estos temas, ahí puede hacer una pregunta y la van a cubrir. Cada semana cubren algo diferente para informar a la comunidad.
Qué importante estar ahí conectado con la comunidad, no aislarse, ¿no? También quería preguntarles acerca de cómo afrontan los desafíos. Ya sé que estamos como todos viviendo el día a día, ¿no? Preparándonos para lo que va llegando, pero cómo están afrontando desafíos y retos como puede ser, por ejemplo, el que desaparezca DACA. ¿Qué va a pasar con los Dreamers?
Yo personalmente te digo que yo soy una inmigrante indocumentada actualmente protegida por DACA.
¿Tú eres la primera licenciada de tu familia?
Sí, así es. Entonces, DACA y TPS son dos temas en los cuales estamos constantemente siguiendo, constantemente al margen.
Coméntanos qué es TPS para la gente que no lo conozca.
TPS es una protección temporal. Igual que DACA, los dos programas son un permiso de trabajo con protección en contra de la deportación. Es bien importante recordar eso, que son permiso de trabajo y protección nada más. No son residencia, no son estatus legal, son dos programas temporales. A veces tenemos que pelear porque los renueven. Seguimos en esa lucha, ya tenemos muchos años. Los salvadoreños tienen más de 20 años en esta lucha. Los que tienen DACA tienen aproximadamente más de 10 años. Seguimos en esa constancia monitoreando. Por eso sabemos que la solución para nuestra comunidad es una reforma migratoria. Para nosotros en CHIRLA, esa siempre es la dirección a donde vamos. Sabemos que tenemos que tener una reforma que sea justa para nuestra comunidad, y eso no se nos olvida. Estos programas son temporales y seguimos peleando porque existan estas protecciones. Una de las maneras es, número uno, tiene que recordar a la gente que tiene que renovar.
Renovar.
El que escuche las noticias que lo pararon, que ya no existe, usted siga renovando cuando lo dejen. Usted vaya a organizaciones como SALEF, como CHIRLA, como carecen, y usted infórmese y renueve, porque la renovación es la protección. Número dos, haga una consulta. Tal vez hay otro programa para el que califique y no lo sabe y pueda ajustar de otra forma por un familiar, porque algo en su vida cambió, algo sucedió y no está al tanto de algo que le pueda beneficiar. Y número tres, nosotros salimos a las calles a demandar que hayan protecciones, porque eso es gran parte de esto, que nosotros estamos viendo que la movilización de la gente es lo que actúa el cambio. Entonces, si no son afectados, si sí son afectados, únase a la gente que está demandando el cambio en las marchas, en las protestas.
Creo que es muy importante el punto que tocó Areli de la importancia de tener una reforma migratoria que sea justa y digna para todas las personas que que han estado en limbo por tantos años, como los tepecianos, también las personas que son recipientes de DACA. Entonces, ahorita no ha habido un cambio. ¿Ok? Entonces es muy importante mantenernos educados y saber lo que está pasando y conectarse con las organizaciones que han estado aquí por más de 4 décadas, no solamente proveyendo los servicios, pero en la lucha para muchos de esos programas como TPS y como DACA. Entonces es muy importante saber la información. A veces nos guiamos por cosas que oímos en diferentes redes sociales que pueden ocasionarnos que no, por miedo.
Verificar.
por miedo no quizás ir a renovar nuestros permisos. Entonces es muy importante fijarse de la fecha, no solamente del DACA, de TPS, pero también de su residencia. Considerar que si usted es elegible para convertirse en ciudadano, que usted lo haga, porque eso pudiera abrir el camino para peticionar a algún familiar. Entonces es muy importante ver a un abogado de migración, ir a una de las organizaciones y asegurarse de que estemos entendiendo la diferencia entre una persona que es acreditado por el Departamento de Justicia, un abogado y un notario, porque nos pueden poner en proceso de deportación si no sabemos a quién estamos acudiendo y nos pudieran llenar algún formulario que nos pudiera poner en un camino hacia la deportación.
Fíjate que Jocelyn habla de algo bien importante que sucede en nuestra comunidad, que hay muchas personas que tienen oficinas donde hacen impuestos y también llenan formas de inmigración. Hay diferentes nombres, consultores de inmigración,
sí,
notarios.
Sí, te iba a preguntar, ¿cuál es la diferencia, no? Para que la gente más o menos se pueda hacer una idea de las distinciones.
Esta es la diferencia más importante. Alguien que es un consultor de inmigración o un notario que te llena formas de inmigración, nada más te puede llenar las formas. No te puede dar consejo y, más importante, si inmigración te llama a las oficinas, esa persona no puede ir contigo y no te puede representar. Así es que la persona iría solo a algo bien peligroso, ¿verdad? Hay organizaciones comunitarias que tienen un permiso para practicar inmigración, que es una acreditación del Departamento de Justicia, DOJ Accreditation. Y son organizaciones que nada más sin fines de lucro que pueden recibir esta acreditación, como SALEF, como CHIRLA, como Carecen, como Baji, tenemos estas acreditaciones. Y es importante ir a estas organizaciones porque si a inmigración llama a alguien que vaya a la oficina y explique algo de su aplicación, entonces hay un representante que puede ir con ellos, no tienen que ir solo. Al contrario, estas personas no pueden ir a representarlo. También tienen nada más un permiso con una información muy limitada acerca de migración, donde las organizaciones que tienen personal especializado tienen toda la información y están bajo el cuidado de un abogado que puede asesorarlos en qué cosa sigue. Si ese caso se complica más, el abogado interviene y va a la corte. Un notario o alguien que da consulta de inmigración que no tiene estas acreditaciones ya no puede seguir con el caso. Tristemente, lo que vemos en nuestra comunidad es que muchas personas que caen a la vista de inmigración es porque tienen una aplicación que fue llenada incorrectamente y eso es lo que alerta a inmigración, que hay alguien y que tienen que ir a buscar. Eso pasa muy a menudo.
Mucho de lo que vemos en la comunidad es que especialmente ahorita que hay mucho miedo, personas que han trabajado tanto por su dinero y van con una de estas personas que son notarios y quizás son confiables porque han estado en la comunidad por muchos años, pero no tienen la habilidad de representar a una persona ante la Junta de Migración. Es muy importante. Entonces, son vulnerables, les quitan su dinero, pagan por un servicio que no van a poder completar al final y los pueden poner en un proceso de deportación. Y entonces es muy importante no solamente entender la diferencia que para quizás procesos de su país, como si vas a comprar una casa en El Salvador o tienes que hacer algún trámite en tu país, quizás ese notario sí funcione y tenga la habilidad de practicar leyes allá, pero no aquí. Un notario aquí es una persona que va a un entrenamiento de 8 horas y lo tienen que recertificar cada tanto tiempo. Entonces es muy importante entender la diferencia del uso de esta palabra aquí en los Estados Unidos versus en su país de origen.
Okay. O sea, entonces lo más importante es estar conectados con la comunidad, sobre todo con organizaciones como SALEF y CHIRLA que realmente tienen la capacidad de ayudarles. Entonces, ¿cómo es que puede la gente conectarse, acceder a todos los recursos que ustedes ofrecen?
Bueno, SALEF está localizado cerca del centro de Los Ángeles. Nosotros estamos localizados en el 421 Sur Bixel. Nos pueden visitar siempre en nuestras oficinas, pero también se pueden contactar con nosotros mediante dándonos una llamada al 213-480-1052. Y una de las maneras más fáciles de mantenerse informado de lo que estamos haciendo en SALEF es que nos pueden seguir en las redes sociales. Nos pueden seguir en Instagram, @_SALEF, para mantenerse informado. También tenemos nuestro sitio web donde nos puede visitar @salef.org.
CHIRLA tiene una página web que es chirla.org, donde pueden ir y recibir información acerca de todas las oficinas y todos los servicios que CHIRLA ofrece. Aquí en la ciudad de Los Ángeles tenemos una oficina central cerca del área de MacArthur Park Westlake, que es a donde ofrecemos muchos de nuestros servicios. También tenemos la oficina en colaboración con a nuestro concejal Curren Price en el sur de Los Ángeles. Esa oficina de recursos también ofrece servicios legales, y en Pacoima también hay una oficina de recursos y servicios legales donde se pueden conectar. Igualmente que SALEF, tenemos representantes que pueden ir a las escuelas, a las iglesias a dar más información directamente con la comunidad, y también tenemos un departamento de membresía que puede conectar a las personas con lo que necesitan. Hay veces que nuestra comunidad se han quedado sin trabajo y necesitan comida, y los podemos conectar con las diferentes fuentes que están ofreciendo cajas de comida, que están ofreciendo pañales, que están ofreciendo fórmula para los bebés. Tenemos todos esos servicios para que la comunidad pueda estar sanamente. También tenemos la línea de asistencia al inmigrante, donde pueden recibir referencias a otras organizaciones que les puedan ayudar, ya sea en vivienda, en salud mental, en salud física, y todo eso pueden encontrar en chirla.org.
Ok, pues muchas gracias, Areli y Jocelyn, por pasar este tiempo con nosotros, compartiendo pues información y recursos para nuestra comunidad inmigrante acá en Los Ángeles. Soy Natalia Bilbao para LA City View Channel 35. Gracias por vernos.